Geraldo Rivera on the Cumulus Media Networks.
Joining us now, 22 minutes after, is one of the most articulate voices from the right in the Congress of the United States, representing the great state of Kansas. Congressman Tim Huelskamp returns to the program. How you doing, Congressman?
Hey, doing well. Good morning.
Good morning to you. So what do you make of the really a shift in conversation starting in Washington, but I think it's trickling down to talk radio and to newspapers across the country. Now the president has changed the subject from Obamacare and the website and all the rest of that, although he is hitting it and cheerleading it. What he's really talking about more is the disparity in income in the country, the need for a new minimum wage. Do you think that he is intentionally trying to change the subject, or do you think that those issues really deserve the kind of attention they're getting this week?
Well, they deserve attention, but it's clearly an attempt to distract, in my opinion. But the real attention should be, well, Mr. President, we tried your way for 5 years, and what you're pointing out is you failed. You have failed. It's not working. 4 out of 5 new jobs that are created, 4 out of 5 are part-time. And I just was in a small business committee hearing from real small businessmen and women across the country, and they're not hiring because of Obamacare. And they're not doing things, and when they do hire, it's part-time. It's those kind of things that are very worrisome, that even if we'd make the changes tomorrow in Washington, the damage done to the economy, I think, is severe on long term. And so the president can talk about minimum wage as a distraction, but at the end of the day, it's not creating enough new jobs, and they're not full-time jobs, and the economy is slowly moving, but not very quickly.
Tim Huelskamp, the Republican of Kansas, the congressman from Kansas, is my guest. So, in terms of the minimum wage, though, before we go on to the Obamacare situation, you have sympathy, don't you, for the fast food workers who are protesting in Kansas City or Wichita today, don't you?
Well, I have sympathy, and that they're in such a bad economy. But the idea that somebody in the White House can suddenly determine, that person's worth $10 an hour, I think one could say he's really a piker. Who could live on $10 an hour? Why doesn't he suggest $20 an hour? But at the end of the day, he could also suggest, let's just require every retailer to cut their prices by 10% and make it more affordable. At the end of the day, government can't set those prices. I have a teenage daughter. The job she does, I wonder whether it's even worth the minimum wage, but the idea they're going to give her $2 an hour more to do what she's doing now, they won't have the job anymore. They can't afford that. And so, yeah, I have sympathy, but the way you handle this is you're growing that economy. But those are the jobs that the president's worried about, that he's creating. Those have always been entry-level jobs for folks like my 16-year-old daughter. And so, yeah, we have sympathy. I have incredible sympathy that 5 years of failed economic policies have not pulled any of these folks up, but has actually pushed them down. So I say, Mr. President, why don't you try something else? You've been trying these same policies, and they have failed, and failed miserably.
Congressman Tim Huelskamp, my guest, a Republican from Kansas. Do you think that what the president and, in a sense, the new mayor in New York, Bill de Blasio, progressive, very liberal mayor in New York, do you think that they are encouraging class warfare? Is that the future of the country? Will Obamacare be part of that discussion, that ebb and flow?
Well, that's really, in my mind, how the president got elected. Definitely the first time. It played quite a role. The second election, they have mastered that in the election cycle, but it doesn't work on the policy side. And at the end of the day, I don't think Americans like that. They're getting tired of being pulled apart. And but after 5 years trying to point at somebody else for these problems, because he promised he'd pull people together, and now he's trying to divide them. Every time he gets behind or lower in the polls, that's what he's attempting to do. But, it might work politically for the president and got him a second term and got him the first term. But at the end of the day, it's not helping the economy. It's not helping those people. And it's not certainly helping the 5 million Americans that lost their health insurance. It's those kind of things that you can talk and talk and talk all day, but Americans usually say, hey, show us what you've done. And so far, it's been a failure for 5 years.
We're advocating that the president postpone the individual mandate because there's a lot of people that aren't going to make that December 23rd deadline if they want coverage on January 1st. Mm-hmm. But you've got bigger problems. You're one of the people who've been fighting against the expansion in Medicaid payments to the states. Why wouldn't you take extra Medicaid funding for Kansas for health care?
Well, thank goodness at least the Supreme Court allowed states to make that decision. But the situation is we're going to borrow money from the Chinese to pay these states to expand a Medicaid system that's already failing. We have alternatives. I have a bill I've signed on to, numerous others, that we can actually do a better job with less money. And we can do that. Why would we continue to pour money down a hole that doesn't work? And I'll just say, if there's any governor or legislators in these states that somehow think 3 or 4 or 5 years from now they're still going to get 100% of this expansion, that never happens.
So what can you just tell me? Are you gonna push for another government shutdown to get defunding for that aspect of Obamacare?
I don't think we're going to have a shutdown, but it's all up to Harry Reid. Harry Reid runs the Senate. We pass bills and bills through the House. But I don't think we're going to have a shutdown, but we'll see. I mean, if
you don't want a shutdown. That'll take the focus off the president and back on you guys.
Yeah, I hope they don't. But what I see right now in Washington, what's going to happen for the end of the year is what they do every year, and that's they're going to spend more money. And in order to reach an agreement in Washington, it's usually both sides agree to spend more money. That's actually, I'll put that down. That's my prediction. We won't have a shutdown, but they'll blow through the sequester, which is a limit on spending. They'll spend some more money, and somehow that's going to grow the economy. But fundamentally, the economy is not doing well, and it has to do with policies out of Washington, regulatory policies, statutory policies.
Got to let you go, Congressman. Great job, as always. Congressman Tim Huelskamp, and we shall return after this.